Hey everybody, welcome to the Dr. Todd Talks channel. I did a video a while back on the dangers of helicopter parenting, and it seemed to strike a chord. I got a lot of comments, some positive, some negative, a lot of discussion, and I think it strikes a chord because, frankly, a lot of us can relate to it. What I'm going to do today is I'm going to do a Dangers of Helicopter Parenting 2.0. I'm going to talk a little bit more about it, but before I go on, if you like these videos, please subscribe to my channel and share it with other people. All right, so I'm going to do a quick recap. I won't spend a long time on this. We talked before about three parenting behaviors that will help you know if you're being a helicopter parent. Helicopter parenting was a term that was coined a couple of decades ago. I think it was around 1990. And it basically means you're hovering and you're micromanaging, you're interfering. And the three behaviors that I identified before, one was being overly involved, like overly involved in every aspect of your kids' lives. Number two, intervening in all their conflicts. And then number three, limiting their autonomy. So just making decisions for them all the time to an extreme, right? So keep in mind everything I say, we have to be wise. I'm not asking you or suggesting that we allow 2-year-olds to make all of life's decisions, but they can make little decisions, right? So just common sense. All right. Negative outcomes from helicopter parenting. Pretty clear in the research, definitely clear in my career. I joke this is job security for me. It brings lots of kids and families into therapy for me. But the negative outcomes are that when we helicopter our kids, when we overparent, over control, it keeps those kids socially immature, emotionally immature. They're rigid, they're anxious, they're dependent, they're self-conscious, they're depressed, and they're self-critical. And a real problem comes when they get older, when they're teenagers, young adults, and they have to start solving problems for themselves, but they can't because they never learned how to do that. And part of the problem is if you're a helicopter parent, you might not mean to do this, but you've been sending the message all along that you can't do this without me. You can't solve your own problems, so I'm going to solve them for you. And that becomes a real problem as they get older. So let's talk about three other behaviors that you can consider as a helicopter parent. I'm going to tell you some true stories to illustrate these behaviors. So these are real life stories. Number one, rescuing and fixing, kind of similar to what we talked about before. But are you jumping in to solve all their problems, whether it's a forgotten homework assignment, something small, a tough project, maybe a conflict with a friend? But are you rescuing them before they even are able to attempt to fix the problem themselves? Again, when we rescue and we fix for them, that sends the message that they can't do it on their own. They're not capable. And it undermines their confidence, their self-confidence. It undermines their resilience, and it really undermines the precious learning opportunities they get when they struggle. I'm going to tell you a real story about a young man I'll call Tucker. So Tucker, true story, big kid, strong, charming, from the Southeast. And he was a football player. He was about 20 years old. He was a football player. And he was very good. He was projected to go play professionally in the NFL. And again, he was charming and very likable, but Tucker was also a liar, and he was entitled, he was self-centered, and he expected things to be easy for him because they always had been. And another thing about Tucker is he had a pretty serious drug problem. Now, when I met Tucker, he let me know that he did not have a serious drug problem, but he did. And eventually it became so serious, so severe, that he got kicked off the football team. This is the star player. And he got kicked out of college. And so now Tucker's back at home, living in his parents' basement and pretty much, believe it or not, spending all day playing video games and getting high. And one night, Tucker got the munchies, of course. And so he decided to go get some food and got in his car, drove away, and ended up running his car into somebody's home. Slight injury, but tons of damage. And parents then intervened as they always did. Now, parents were nice people. Like you would just love these people. They're super kind. They're very prominent in this small town in the southeast that they lived in. And so, of course, when Tucker did this, they hired the best attorney, and Tucker walked away with a slap on the wrist. They were unintentionally creating the very problems that they were trying to avoid. This obviously started at a pretty young age for Tucker. His parents had been fixing and rescuing from a young age, so he never had to suffer consequences. Just remember that this is kind of an extreme example, but when we rescue and fix, that means they don't learn from the consequences themselves. Now, behavior number two, when we over monitor their social life. So, are you stepping in and sort of deciding who they can and cannot be friends with, making your opinions known? Obviously, if your kids are with somebody who's dangerous, right, or super, super unhealthy, then you might want to intervene. But generally, I'm talking about over monitoring their social life. I'll give you an example. Again, a true story. My daughter, who's an adult now, this is probably 15 years ago, but when she was in high school, she had a friend whose parents were so controlling, they were afraid that she'd get in trouble with a boy. She was probably 16 at the time. They would not allow her at school to eat at a table when boys were present at the table. They were afraid that she would end up making some mistake that she couldn't recover from. They were super controlling. And what happened is, as she got older, she fled the home, got away as quick as she could, was sick and tired of being controlled because that's how we all would feel. And they lost her. And to this day, I don't think have much of a relationship with her. So when we over control, especially in these parents' case, they're doing it because they're afraid. We disconnect from our kids. So being controlling disconnects. Fearful parenting is disconnects us from our kids. You lose all influence when you do that. And so by controlling her, they lost her. Now, parenting behavior number three of a helicopter parent is what I'm talking about right now. It's fear, it's parenting from a place of fear. So are you making decisions because you're afraid what might happen to your child, afraid that they might fail, they might get rejected, they might get harmed in some way? It's natural to worry. I do it a lot myself. I tend to be kind of just that way. I worry. But when we have to remember that when we parent from a place of fear, it leads to overprotecting and limiting your kid's ability to face challenges and to build resilience. And lots of people nowadays ask me, because I've been doing this for so long, what are common themes that you see with kids nowadays? And it's the lack of resilience. Kids can't, they don't bounce back very well. And again, I joke that this is job security for me, but they don't bounce back. Um, the real question here is like, what do we do about this? So if you're rescuing and fixing, if you're over monitoring their social life, if you're parenting from a place of fear, like what do you do about that? So number one, you cannot change what you don't acknowledge. Nobody can fix anything that they don't think is a problem. So if you recognize any of these behaviors in yourself, even if it's just a little bit, that's step one. When we recognize that we're doing something, that's the only time, then and only then can we actually do something about it. So it's okay for you to acknowledge your fears openly and to recognize that what you're doing is causing harm to the kids eventually. Brene Brown, a lot of people love her. I love her. She made a comment that resonates in this situation. It's choosing courage over comfort. I cannot protect my child from everything, but I can teach them to rise after they fall. That comes from her. And again, that's the resilience that I'm talking about that we don't see in a lot of kids nowadays. We don't need to protect them from getting hurt. We need to teach them how to rise. If there's anything wish I could magically give to parents and kids nowadays is the ability to develop resilience. They can do tough things, they can face hard things, they can fail, but they can get back up again. All right. If you find these videos helpful, please like the videos, subscribe to the channel. I also have a website, drtoddtalks.com. Lots of free material there. There's articles there. There's references there. I also have a parenting course called Connection and Credibility. You'll find that on the website. It's about how to stay connected to your kid, like really connected to your kid, emotionally connect. That, by the way, is the source of all influence. If you want influence with your kids, increase your connection with them, but also how to be credible. The way I define credibility is you're a parent who has boundaries and has structure, and your kids know that you mean what you say. And so I teach you in this course how to be connected, but also how to be credible and how to have those boundaries and structures in a way that actually increases your intimacy with them. Okay, that's all for today. I will see you next time.